Well, welcome back, and we're here again with Dr. Ken Peters, and we're here to take a look at hymns that Ken has been nice enough to help us understand as he expounds on them. And Ken, what do you have for us today?
Well, today we'd like to take a look at one of the great hymns of the evangelical faith, pardon me, and that's Charles Wesley's "And Can It Be That I Should Gain?" And I'm going to take a sip of hot coffee here for a minute. And I think all of us have sung this in various venues, and it's just a tremendous hymn. And what I'd like to do, you have it on the screen, is just to read through it, and then we'll go back and just work our way through stanza by stanza, and let it serve as our devotion today and as our worship. So Charles Wesley begins with a series of questions. And can it be that I should gain an interest in the Savior's blood? Died he for me who caused his pain, for me who him to death pursued? Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, shouldst die for me? And then 2, 'tis mystery all, the immortal dies, who can explore his strange design? In vain the firstborn seraph tries to sound the depths of love divine. 'Tis mercy all, let earth adore, let angel minds inquire no more. He left his Father's throne above, so free, so infinite his grace, emptied himself of all but love, and bled for Adam's helpless race. 'Tis mercy all, immense and free, for oh my God, it found out me. Long my imprisoned spirit lay, fast bound in sin and nature's night. Thine eye diffused the quickening ray. I woke, the dungeon flamed with light. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I rose, went forth, and followed thee. No condemnation now I dread. Jesus and all in him is mine. Alive in him, my living head, and clothed in righteousness divine. Bold I approach the eternal throne and claim the crown through Christ my own. So the poem and the hymn opens with a series of rhetorical questions, and we'll see those in stanza 1. And can it be that I should gain an interest in the Savior's blood? Died he for me who caused his pain, for me who him to death pursued? Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, should die for me? And in the hymnals, of course, we repeat that, and it's a kind of refrain that runs through, always repeating the last 2 verses. First of all, the great thing about this poem is its tone. The speaker's attitude towards the subject and what he's talking about. So you have this sense of wonder and sort of incredulity that's expressed to us by a series of questions. On one level, but not the main level, this is a kind of discussion of apologetics. You really have questions that are rhetorical, that from a materialistic, sort of naturalistic worldview, the answer to the questions would be no, it can't be. This doesn't happen. But from the faith experience point of view, it's an affirmation of the gospel message and what God did for each of us, and the sense of wonder that goes with it. So you have a kind of competition, if you will, on one level of a kind of naturalistic worldview where these kind of questions, rhetorical, would be answered, well, no, it can't be. This doesn't make sense. But our experience and the scriptures and the gospel says this is in fact how God entered the world. And it is in fact a truth for us that we accept and we receive by faith. But the real thrust of this opening here is not a sort of apologetic discussion. As we look at the word, this is personal. Because everything in this opening is about, this is me. He said, can it be that I should gain an interest in the Savior's blood? Died he for me? And Charles Wesley is, as the speaker is saying, for me personally, and it's for each of us as we recite these verses. Died he for me, for Ken Peeders, who caused his pain, for me, who him to death pursued. And then there's a statement of absolute amazement about it. Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, should die for me? So it's personal, it opens up that way, and Wesley has every one of us singing a kind of personal song that says, Lord, this is so amazing. This is so amazing that you did these things for me. And me, and each one of us, that we have an interest in the Savior's blood. I caused this pain, yet he loved me and died for me. I pursue him to death in my sin, yet he died and he loves me. And the response is amazing love. That's the tone. How can this be that you would do it? And then he gives us a kind of answer. This is as far as he's going to go. He's not going to get into an apologetic. He opens the next stanza saying, it's a mystery. 'Tis mystery all. And then he gives us this wonderful paradox. The immortal dies. Those two words don't belong together, but they only belong together in the gospel. If you're immortal, you don't die. That's the definition of immortality. But the immortal dies. You might want to think of a poem by Emily Dickinson that gives an example of this, where she says, success is counted sweetest by those who never succeed. And as a kid growing up in Brooklyn and a Dodger fan, and every time we lost, the World Series to the Yankees, I would remember that. I understood what success would be because we kept losing. And then one day it happened and the whole borough exploded, So I've often thought of this, the immortal dies. Well, as a believer and as a Christian, we understand what that means. God became human, and in his humanity, he died. So he opens and says, it's a mystery. The immortal dies. And then he does a neat little thing here. Who can explore his strange design? He says, who can explore this? Who in the world can fathom it? Who can understand it? So he gives us a little story. He says, well, the firstborn angel couldn't even figure it out. He says, in vain, the first seraph tries to sound the depths of love divine. 'Tis mercy all, that's the answer. 'Tis mystery all, 'tis mercy all. Let earth adore, let angel minds inquire no more. You're not going to get there by trying to reason this through. God's love for us is unreasonable. You're not going to get there by trying to figure it out. One accepts this in faith, and we say, 'tis mystery all, 'tis mercy all, let earth adore, and we're invited to participate in that adoration. So there are a couple of terms in here that are kind of interesting. If you look at the angel story, he tells us, in vain the firstborn seraph tries to sound the depths of love divine. That verb sound would have had much more meaning during Charles Wesley's time than it does now. Yeah. It's a maritime term. And before we had depth finders, when ships were coming into a harbor or were coming into a new area, they would have somebody out front with a rope and a stone, and they would drop it over. And they would holler out how deep it was. They were sounding the depths. So the image here is this picture of us sort of sounding the depths of God's love in that image. And we can't find the depths. 'Tis mercy all, let earth adore, let angel minds inquire no more. So then he moves on, and he makes the following statement. He gives us a gospel story here. He left the Father's throne. Here's the gospel. So free, so infinite his grace. He emptied himself of all but love, and he bled for Adam's helpless race. 'Tis mercy all, immense and free, for oh my God, it found out me.
Ken, there's quite a bit of deep theology in that too, isn't there?
Oh my, there is. Yes, we can maybe unpack it a little bit. He left without cost to us. He left his Father's throne, and he gave us this free, infinite grace. That's this, and then emptied himself of all but love. That's just a great line. Mm-hmm. And as I meditate on that, I think in terms of, well, what were the qualities that the Son left behind that are the qualities of God? And certainly when you look at his birth, as a helpless child, one of the things he left behind was power. He could have done anything he wanted in this world. He could have resolved this. And in fact, one of the things he kept running up against were people who wanted him to use that power and to come as a powerful Messiah to defeat Rome. But that was not what was happening here. All of those attributes of God that are part of what we know, omniscience, power, all of those, of all of them, the one he brought to the battle was love. He emptied himself of all but love. And then this was shown up how? He came as a helpless child and he bled for Adam's helpless race. It's interesting when you look at the temptation story in Matthew, that what Satan wanted him to do was the very thing that's raised here. Wanted him to use some of those powers that were his, but Jesus refused. And it comes up again when Jesus asked his disciples, who do you say I am? And Peter says, well, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And then later on, Peter says, that's not going to happen to you. And what does Jesus say to him? Get thee behind me, Satan. So the thing that Jesus came with, and think about that, he came to this earth and his ammunition, the power that he had was love. And that's what was going to defeat sin, going to defeat death, going to defeat Satan, and Satan knew it. So he bled for Adam's helpless race, for you and me. And then once again, the speaker says, his mercy all immense and free, for oh my God, it found out me. Mm-hmm. And John, you had some other thoughts on this?
Well, the idea of Adam's helpless race, he's talking about the theological term for that is federal headship, where Christ, Adam acted on behalf of his race, if you will, everybody who would come after him. Adam was acting on their behalf, and then Christ came and acted on behalf of his people again when he bled and died, and so it's a very deep and rich theological point to say that that Adam bled or that Adam had a helpless race that came after him, but Christ intervened and he bled for as a federal head for his people too.
For his people, so he bled for you and me, and then and the expression again, he steps back again. There's always a sense of wonder. His mercy all. We get that statement again. It's grace, immense and free, because oh my God, it found out me. And we often pray, both for family or for friends or for certain people, and we'll often pray, Lord, would you pursue them? And A.W. Tozer has this wonderful book, The Pursuit of God. There's that image then of God coming and pursuing us and acting this way and dying. And it was act of love. And that is the power that he brings to our helplessness, each one of us. Yeah. And then, and before this beautiful look of, it's an allusion. It alludes to a story of Peter in the dungeon and in jail. But he starts talking about it himself. He says, long my imprisoned spirit lay, fast down in sin and nature's night. Thine eye diffused the quickening ray. I woke, my dungeon flamed with light. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I rose, went forth, and followed thee. So you have him, the image of him. I lay in this prison. And we have some words here that are a little bit older, fast bound. And of course, that's not one that we hear very much, but maybe the best example would be something was tied fast. I mean, it's just stuck. And he's bound fast. He can't move. And he's bound in sin. And then this interesting expression in nature's night. And I would say, to me, that's the idea that, we can learn a lot about God from nature. But nature doesn't tell us the gospel story. if we rely only on nature to understand God, we have to acknowledge a couple of things. C.S. Lewis talks about this. We have to acknowledge that on one hand he's powerful, and on the other hand, if you don't have the gospel in here, God is perhaps even a little bit, what's the word I want? I have to struggle here for a minute. But God seems to do things this way and that way. Over here, somebody dies, someone here doesn't. Tornado hits here, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Capricious.
through nature,
Capricious.
yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
Through nature, we don't get at the gospel.
Yeah.
And he says, I was bound in sin, and I was bound in my understanding, nature's night.
Yeah.
And God then acted. His eye diffused a quickening ray. And that word goes back to the quick and the dead,
Yeah.
a life-giving ray. So God looked on me and diffused a quickening ray. And he says, I
Ken,
woke. Yeah.
when I look at that too, there's an interesting, he uses nature's night in sort of a second way too, because nature's night is about darkness. And that darkness comes from both sin and from the lack of knowledge. So we're feeling around in the dark, and we don't know where to go. And it also used in the sense that we're without complete knowledge. And then he breaks through with that quickening ray. I think that's terrific.
It's a terrific picture. And the quickening ray is the gospel, and it's Jesus on the cross, and the whole story that we had. And then he says, I woke, the dungeon flamed with light. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I rose, went forth, and followed thee. And let me just read the story of Peter in jail, and you'll get this sense of what Wesley's doing. The night before Herod was to bring him to trial, this is Acts 12:6. Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains, and sentries stood guard at the entrance. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and a light shone in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. Quick, get up, he said, and the chains fell off Peter's wrists. Then the angel said to him, put on your clothes and sandals, and Peter did so. Wrap your clothes around you and follow me. And the angel told him and followed him out of the prison. But he had no idea what the angel was doing, that what the angel was doing was really happening. He thought he was seeing a vision. They passed the first and second guards and came to the iron gate leading to the city. It opened for them by itself, and they went through it. When they had walked the length of one street, suddenly the angel left him. And Peter came to himself. He said, now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent the angel and rescued me. And we can say, now I know without a doubt that the Lord sent his son and rescued me. And my life is filled with this picture. Whenever I sing this hymn, this is the one I really get at. This stanza right here. My chains fell off.
Yeah, same with me.
My heart was free. And then in the last stanza, we look forward. It's very, very common in these hymns to do a time thing, past, present, future. Now I face no condemnation. No condemnation now I dread. Jesus and all in him is mine. Alive in him my living head, and clothed in righteousness divine. Bold I approach the eternal throne and claim the crown through Christ my own. There's a series of biblical allusions here. I keep hearing Ephesians, like 1:4, where he chose us in him, before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless. And Ephesians 3, in him and through faith in him, we may approach God with freedom and confidence.
Yeah.
This ends with that sense of confidence, doesn't it? And he ends by saying, no condemnation now I feel. Through faith in him, we have this. And then in Philippians, that I may gain Christ and be found in him, not having a righteousness of my own. So he ends with biblical allusions to Paul's writings and celebrates where we are today. One of the great poetic expressions of the evangelical faith, this poem, as Leland Ryken has said, is a poem of a song of a soul set free.
Yeah, it's all beautiful to me. Yeah, and I see clothed in righteousness. I think of that passage in Isaiah where Isaiah says that all our righteousness is as filthy rags, and
Right.
we're clothed in righteousness divine, uh, thanks to His clothing us when we couldn't clothe ourselves.
So it's a tremendous hymn, and as you look at it, you realize why it is sung and over again, and has been sung in the Protestant faith.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Ken. That's terrific, and I appreciate your scholarship and your insights on this. Now, I understand next week we're going to be examining "Oh, Worship the King."
right,
Okay.
and we'll look forward to that. Look forward
Well,
to seeing all of
okay. Well, we appreciate it, and thank you so much for helping us out. And God bless you. Our greetings to Norma. We miss you down here, but we know that you're enjoying yourself. And I think I heard 95-degree heat in Minnesota.
it. That's down the south end of the state.
Okay. Well, thank you for your insights, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week, Ken.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. God bless you. Bye-bye.